Hello and welcome to a new episode of Airport CEO, where we, after last time's completion of the baggage system, now are moving or staying inside the building and trying to improve the interior of our new terminal building. So some of the things we will be working on today are, for example, the floors. We have multiple rooms and I kind of want to give them all their individual look. So for example, bathroom should have a specific floor. I think there we'll go for some form of a concrete. My staff rooms I always give the blue mat, and then of course we need to find a floor for the departure hall where we have the check-in area, and then I am normally also giving the security area, so everything after the security checks, a different floor. This is of course all to give the airport a nice feel, a nice look, so that, well, not just we can enjoy looking at the airport, but also our passengers can feel right at home. To be honest, I actually had hoped that we at some point would get more floors from the developers. I haven't really seen any notes about that they might do something in the future, but we have had the same floors for quite some time, and I've kind of found the floors that I like the design of. So I tend to reuse the same type of floors all the time. And you can only have so many combinations of it. So yeah, I hope that at some point we might see some additions in that area. I think that could be really nice. Another thing I kind of hope for that the developers will add at some point is, well, it's actually not a new addition. It's more that when you build, for example, check-in desks, or as I found out outside the building, bus stops and stuff like that, they are always switched on as a default. And in this case, for example, I have Terminal 1 running, and then I started adding bus stops in front of Terminal 2. Now, they are obviously meant for passengers arriving at Terminal 2, which isn't in operation yet. But because I guess I didn't have enough bus stops in front of Terminal 1, buses started arriving at Terminal 2 and dropped passengers off, and they couldn't move anywhere from there. Now, then I switched off the bus stops in front of Terminal 2, which solved the problem. But especially when you have these bigger projects, you have so many things that you add, and having to switch them off individually is a little bit annoying. So I would really love to see that basically security checks, boarding desks, check-in desks, all that stuff is by default switched off when you construct it, and then you can switch it on as you need it. I think that could be a really nice little thing. I don't think it would be very complicated for the developers to do, but yeah, that's just my thought on the game. Of course, we will also be adding some shops at the airport, but before we do that, we will be working a little bit on the security area. Basically, I've left enough space so that we can extend it, and I think instead of waiting for the airport to get overrun, we will simply extend it right from the get-go and make sure that we have enough security checks. Right now we have 6 security checks, and I will be aiming for having 10, so that we have 25 stands for aircraft. We have, what is the ratio? I think we have 10 check-in, no, we have 2 check-in desks per flight or per stand. Yeah, then we have 10 security checkpoints, large ones. And I think that should put us in a nice position where we can handle the traffic. If not, then we can even extend it even more, because we do still have some space. So we should be on the safe side with that. What of course also will become quite important to do is start zoning everything out. So having the correct zones or areas, so staff zones, security areas and all that stuff. So that when we switch on Terminal 2, when we start using this terminal, that everything has its correct how do you say that? Well, that everything is correctly zoned out, so that we don't have passengers moving into areas they shouldn't, or workers walking wrongly around and stuff like that. So it is, I find it a bit challenging as always when I'm doing the construction, because I always end up having some kind of dead zones where my workers seem to be unable to reach, or so for some reason. I think so far it's going quite well, but I have had many times where I built a building and there seems to be no obvious reasons or no obvious reason why they can't reach a specific area, and then I make a tiny little hole in a wall, and then suddenly they can move in and they couldn't before for some reason. So that's always a challenge that I face when I'm doing construction work at the terminal buildings. Another thing that we of course will be working on here at the airport today is starting to add some shops, especially in the departure area. So already before the security check, I want to add a few shops. We see that at airports all around the world that well, in the arrivals or in the departure areas, we have shops. We have shops around the baggage belts. We have shops pretty much everywhere. I mean, nowadays airports have become glorified shopping malls, really, with a connected airport. So I'll try not to build them, well, too intrusive, but we will have some shops, and obviously it makes sense to have some shops there because you always have a lot of people walking around in these areas. So we will be adding a food room at one side of the departure hall, and I think we will add a shop room at the other side. That way we have one of each there. I did encounter, but that's a long time ago now, where I had a build of an airport. I kind of encountered a limit as to how many shops I could add, and I'm not sure if that still exists. If you know if there's still a limit as to how many shops you can add in this game, then please let me know. And if you know how many or what the limit is, then also please let me know in the comments below. I would really appreciate that, because that would really help out planning this terminal to see how many shops we still can build, so we don't end up well, preparing for shops that we then can't add. I guess I see the point in having a limit when you are playing the game. On the other hand, if you're doing it in sandbox as we're doing here, I don't really see any reasons as to why to have a limit, because obviously money isn't as important in the game when you play it in sandbox, and therefore, I mean, it's not really cheating adding these shops. And anyway, I don't think it's cheating adding shops in an airport, because as we talked about it, you have them everywhere nowadays at airports. Yeah, so while we are working on the shops, well, what's new at the channel? Last time I talked about a lot of projects that I'm working on, and well, I guess by now, the teaser, the very first teaser for my newest top secret project should have dropped. The thing is, I'm recording this, of course, ahead of time to make sure that the episode is ready for you guys on the Sunday. What day is it today? It's actually Monday. So the day before, or the day after the last episode dropped, I'm recording this now. So yeah, but by the time you see this video, I guess I would I have dropped the first teaser? Maybe not. But it would be around this time that the first teaser for my new top secret project would be available on my YouTube channel. Yeah, I'm really excited for that project. I've also started another project, and right now I'm really working on a lot of things. I've actually started recording gameplay for another Airport CEO series, where I kind of mentioned it some time ago, that I was interested in trying to build something similar to Berlin Tegel. And I've started recording. I've already recorded the first, the gameplay of the first 2 episodes for that. And I think that's mainly because I really like the design of the airport. Now, I know in real life the airport gets a lot of hate, and I understand why. I mean, there are many reasons why, but mainly I think everything comes down to the design of the airport, which, well, was based on traffic in the 70s, basically, or even earlier than that. So the airport obviously cannot cope with the amount of passengers that come through it today. But when you come to this airport, when you come to Berlin-Tegel, and you don't fly in peak hours, then I really think that this airport is just fantastic. It's so quick to get in and out of the airport. The path you have to take to get to your plane or away from your aircraft is so super short compared to, I mean, it's really short, and especially compared to modern day airports where you have to walk for miles and miles to get in or out of the building. So I really like this airport, actually. I understand any reasons why anyone would not like the airport, but from a design point of view, if you get the amount of traffic right, that this design can cope with, I think it's an amazing airport. So that's something I'm working on now, trying to replicate in airportceo. Of course, it can't be a 100% replica of it. This game is grid-based. There are certain things we just can't do, but at least trying to replicate the feel of Berlin-Tegel is something that I'm aiming for, and I'm trying to do and get right. And yeah, so I've started recording that, and I guess this series will also drop fairly soon, sometime around October maybe, in the birthday month of the channel, the fifth anniversary month of, well, fifth anniversary month, that's not right. The fifth anniversary of the channel will of course be end of October, and I think around that time I will start dropping first episodes of my various projects that I have been working on for some time, and in case of Berlin-Tegel for a shorter time. But yeah, I'm quite excited about all of that, and I'm really looking forward to see the reaction of you guys, and hopefully it will be something that you guys enjoy watching. Now, the next thing that we will be working on here in today's episode is actually level 1 of Terminal 2. So basically where we will have all our gates. And also here I think we will prepare to have some shops. Of course, again, we also need staff rooms and bathrooms. So all of that we need to add. And of course, I need to make sure that I add the boarding desks in the right distance to the jet bridges. But I also kind of want to try something out where I am actually putting some walls around. Trying really, well, I'm actually just trying to manage how people are walking in and out of the gates. I'm not sure if it will work, but I have a workaround in case it doesn't work. I mean, the simple thing is we can remove all the walls if it doesn't work out. The other option would be to add some doors, so we still have the structure around the boarding desks, but that people can still walk in and out freely if we add doors. But for now, we just will have some walls around the boarding desks, and yeah, I think I hope it will work, and I think it could be a nice little thing. It is always tricky to manage how these how the people in the game walk around, because the gameplay does seem to be that the people in the game will always take the shortest possible path, not necessarily the most logical path. I think that's really something that the game needs to, or the developers need to work on, because sometimes that means that the people do a bit strange things. And just a simple, I don't know, maybe it's more natural that people will always take the shortest path and not always walk as intended. But on the other hand, there are also clearly places in an airport where people are clearly directed and people will follow that path, because otherwise they won't reach wherever they want to go. So I think that's something that the game kind of lacks a little bit of control as to where people are walking and where they're not walking and how they're walking to their destinations. But okay. But I think one thing that I also kind of need to remember is that this is an alpha, and I guess I tend to forget that because the game is actually pretty darn good. I mean, it's a really nice game. It has a nice feel. It's really stable. It doesn't really crash ever. And the things that are implemented, they tend to work. So yeah, I think it's maybe just because the game is actually so good that having these ideas of how it could be improved even exist, because it's not hopeless. It's a really nice game and the developers are really active with it, so that's really, really awesome. So now the last thing we will be working on in today's episode is, of course, again making sure that we have toilets or bathrooms, and that we will have staff rooms across also level 1 here in Terminal 2, so that we always have, especially the staff rooms are important. The toilets, well, I mean, they are also important, of course, but the game doesn't break if you don't have them. But staff rooms are, of course, really essential so that your airport can run smoothly, and we will, of course, make sure that we have those. And also starting to prepare for the shops that I want to add here. That will also be quite essential. Yeah, I have kind of completely neglected Terminal 1 in this episode. And I think the result of that is that our flight schedule has completely run out. So I don't think we have any flights going in at the moment. So we need to start fixing that a little bit so that Terminal 1 doesn't become completely abandoned while we are constructing Terminal 2. But that will be something I will do off camera after this episode ends. So yeah, I guess next Sunday actually there won't be airportceo, because that should be when we have the next episode of Airport Update from Philadelphia Airport. And then after that, of course, we will be back with our normal regular service every Sunday, a new episode of airportceo here from this little, well, now not so little airport in Esbjerg. And with that, of course, we are now coming to the end of the episode. If you have enjoyed this video and are excited for all the projects that are coming up in the next few weeks and months, then smash the like button. That really helps us out. If you're new around here, why not hit subscribe? That would be absolutely awesome. That way you won't miss out on any future videos from airportceo or any other videos that we are publishing here on BongoPlanes. With that, I'd like to say thank you so much for watching. Hope to see you soon again. I'm checking out, and bye.